Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are taking a look at a new Infiniti product that was built to become the brand's best-selling model here in America because, as you guys know, everybody loves crossovers. This is the 2021 Infiniti QX50, and as you guys know, it's now in its second generation. It got a full redesign for the 2019 model year. It's designed to go head-to-head with other compact luxury crossovers like the Acura RDX, the Lexus NX, the BMW X3. And for 2021, Infiniti has made some small changes. I'm going to go over all those changes, and we're going to find out, is this compact luxury SUV still worth a look? If you guys are looking in this segment, that's what we're here to find out. So the QX50 may have been designed to become Infiniti's best-selling model, but it is far from that. Last year, Infiniti sold just under 19,000 units here in North America. Compare that to the 60 to 70,000 units that Acura and Lexus does for the NX and, of course, the RDX crossover. Now, Infiniti has made some changes over the years. However, there's no denying that the brand continues to struggle here in the US with finding relevance. Now, as you can see, this particular one here is a 2021 autograph model, so it's the fully loaded trim. Infiniti still continues to offer the QX50 in 5 different trim configurations, and it's still a handsome looking SUV. When this thing first came out back in 2019, I actually really liked the design. I love the bold front end with this corporate Infiniti grille. Of course, you have these LED headlights, which are standard equipment. This autograph model includes adaptive swiveling LEDs, and you also have LED fog lights. Some of the vents that you see here are functional, especially this vent right here, which aids with cooling the brakes and, of course, getting air to that engine. And the QX50 got a pretty comprehensive overhaul for 2019. This is, of course, based off of a platform that it shares with the Nissan X-Trail or the Nissan Rogue. So that's right, it's a fancy Nissan Rogue. However, under the hood, we do have a unique engine, which I'll talk about in just a moment. Now, when they redesigned this crossover and moved it to a front drive platform, Infiniti significantly increased the overall length and increased the interior space. Now, the wheels on this autograph model are unique to this trim. They're a 20-inch design wrapped in 255/45 series tires. The wheels are probably my favorite part. I think it's a really good-looking SUV, especially when you look at it from the side profile. Infiniti is very much known for their curves, and this SUV shows all of that when you look at the design of it. Now, at 185 inches long, it doesn't look that long, but this is about the same size as Acura's current RDX, which is actually on the bigger end for the compact luxury SUV segment. Looking at the rear, I really like the styling back here. You can see this autograph model includes a very large panoramic sunroof. There's pretty cool looking designs in the chrome trim, and you can see there's a lot of swooping lines that really accentuate the curves of this vehicle. I especially like the rear taillight design. You've got a full LED design with a running light with a design element that kind of matches the front running lights on this car. And then you can see down here, there's a dual exhaust outlet, although those are just exhaust trim pieces. My particular tester also has a towing package, and you can see it's a pretty subtle looking design. Now, opening up the rear trunk area, because they moved us to a front drive platform, Infiniti significantly improved the trunk space. With the second row seats up, which by the way, no third row is available, it's rated to give you 31 cubic feet of space. If you fold down the second row, Infiniti says it expands it to 64 cubic feet of space, which is pretty much on par with the rest of the segment. It's one of the reasons why Infiniti moved to a front drive platform for this second generation. So exterior-wise, Infiniti didn't make any changes for 2021. Now, what about the interior? This vehicle already had a pretty nicely designed and upgraded interior when it first debuted 2 years ago. And you can see, looking at the dashboard layout and this interior color combination, my tester has the upgraded white interior for $2,000 with the combination of brown, blue, white, and some black mixed in. You can see the seats are very nice looking. I love the quilted leather. They're heated and cooled, which is only included on this autograph trim. And I also like the contrasting piping. Now, shutting the door has a relatively solid sounding thunk. This shares a platform with the Nissan Rogue, as I said before. And you can see here, I want to show you guys this. Voila, Infiniti has actually replaced the key. There's a newer key fob design. It looks pretty similar to the old fob design, but I actually really like this because it's not too big, it's not too small. It looks different, and it also includes remote start on the fob. The button to fire up the engine is down here by the shifter. You can see the gauges look like they haven't changed from Infinitis that I saw back in high school in like 2008, 2007, which is a shame. Infiniti really needs to upgrade that. The center stack here, you can see there's still that frustrating 2-screen layout. However, last year, the company added Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It's not wireless. You have to actually plug it in. You can see my iPhone 12 Pro Max is pretty large. There's not really a place where I can put my phone in here. which is a little annoying. There is a USB-C and a regular USB charging port over there. And this interior for $2,000 extra, you can see completely upgraded with beautiful stitching, real leather, Alcantara, beautiful wood grain. This is like a birch wood, real aluminum trim. The 16-speaker Bose stereo that's included on the sensory trim and up. Sounds pretty good. You got 2-person memory seats. The seats themselves are adjustable in 16 different ways. It's hard touch plastic down here, but it's all soft over here. The dash also has this beautiful leather with the wood. It's real stitching. This is a very high quality interior that does show some signs that it shares parts with Nissan, of course. You can see there's a head-up display over here. The switchgear you can see is shared with Nissan. The windows, one touch up down for all 4. This is very much a Nissan window switch, of course, with some aluminum trim added, but that's kind of what you find in Acura and Lexus products as well. This screen here just completely needs to be replaced. There's no need to have 2, just make this one giant screen. I'm not entirely sure why Infiniti hasn't done that yet. I am told they are working on something completely new in the next generation QX60, which is the company's best-selling model. You can see this screen here houses kind of like your information for driver assistance. You can input street addresses here into the GPS. You can access the CarPlay, of course, over there. CarPlay is up here. The touchscreen itself is okay. It's an 8-inch up here and a 7-inch down here, which again is relatively responsive. There's a menu button here, an audio button here where you can get to your audio information and whatnot, or your climate information where you can access the heated steering wheel. It's over here in the climate button. You can see there's dedicated hard buttons over here for your heated and cooled seats, a volume knob, although no tuning knob. And if you don't want to use the touchscreen, Infiniti also has their in-touch controller here, which you can also, access the rear view camera system. The sensory trim and up includes this full 360 camera, which the resolution and quality graphics are terrible. Considering the price of this car, it's just unacceptable. There's a lot of mainstream cars that have better looking reverse camera systems, including Nissan's vehicles. So this is just using their older system. It's unacceptable. Your drive mode selector is over here. Get it out of the camera mode here. You can see you can kind of adjust your different drive modes. There's different views for that. When you start adjusting the drive modes, you can see there's a sport, a personal, a standard, and an eco. That does adjust the throttle, the engine, the steering, and of course the transmission response. Down here you can see there's cup holders, which are on the smaller side. My phone barely fits in there. It doesn't even fit. This controls the CVT transmission. There's a little button over here that you push to go into reverse or push it back to go to drive. Park is accessed by a P button here. You have an electronic parking brake over there. And then over here you can see more of that suede Alcantara, which I think is a bad decision to put right here because it's going to get really dirty and this is going to look terrible in a few years. You can see some of the white over here is already starting to look dirty. There's a pretty good amount of center console storage, which is lined with felt. There's another USB charging port over there. And then the glove compartment you can see is on the smaller side, but it's damped. The lid's damped and it's lined with felt. And then above me, the upper trims include this large pano roof, which does let in a lot of light. And I do find the seats to be comfortable and supportive. But overall, the cabin feels a lot more roomy. There's a good view out of here, but the tech just needs to be seriously overhauled. Even though Infiniti added CarPlay and Android Auto this year, which helps, it just reminds you constantly that this vehicle looks like it's 10 years old at least. Now, looking at the back seat of the QX50, one of the benefits of moving to a front drive platform is Infiniti was able to completely add way more interior space, which was a problem with the first generation EX35. Now, as you can see at 5'7", I can get into this vehicle pretty well. There's no swoopy roof, of course, that is going to cut into the headroom. And when you get back here, there is a surprising amount of space. The company says you get around 38.7 inches of legroom. When I shut the door, you can see there's a lot of fancy materials back here with this white interior upgrade package, real leather stitching, suede Alcantara, beautiful wood grain, aluminum trim, leather, the white leather everywhere. And back here, there's some pretty decent amenities. You can see there's rear seat vents, there's a USB port, a power outlet. You can see there's tri-zone climate control back here. And then when you fold down this, you can see there's a cup holder, armrests, a little bit of storage over there, and then the company gives you 2 map pockets in addition to this really nice manual sunshade. This big panoramic roof lets in a lot of light. Unfortunately, I was expecting to find heated rear seats back here, and they're not included on this trim, especially at the price. I think Infiniti should have included heated back seats. Now, underneath the hood of the 2021 Infiniti QX50, unlike the Nissan Rogue, which continues to use a naturally aspirated 2.5-liter engine, this has a unique engine that we've seen in the new Altima. It's the company's VC Turbo, the first ever variable compression turbocharged engine. It's a 4-cylinder, 2-liter, and it makes the QX50 one of the more powerful entries in the segment, and it also greatly improved the fuel economy over the old V6. At 268 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque, the numbers are pretty much on par with something like the Acura RDX, more horsepower than what you get in something like the Lexus NX, of course. The engine itself is, as you can see, mounted transversely. It has that variable compression system, so it can run on a high or a low compression depending on the engine demands. It's designed to give you fuel economy and power, which at 22 in the city, 28 on the highway, its gas mileage is pretty much on par with the rest of the segment. Now, when Infiniti made this vehicle significantly larger, they also increased the weight. It weighs at around 4,100 pounds, like my particular tester. Unfortunately, it's paired with a CVT transmission. That's right, the exact powertrain basically that's in the Altima, and premium gas is recommended, which is also kind of adding insult to injury, although I believe you can allow this vehicle to run on regular. Now, 0 to 60 performance, we should do that in under 7 seconds, which doesn't make this thing, you know, the sport sedan that it used to, or the sport SUV that it used to, but it did improve the fuel economy, and it does have more torque versus the old V6. Now, when I first drove the Infiniti QX50 a couple years ago, I was not impressed with the new VC turbo engine. Just like I said in the Altima, it's a noisy, rough engine that does offer a good amount of power and torque, but the sound is just not there, and I think that's a big problem, especially at this price tag. You can hear it's a very noisy engine, but you can also feel the torque this offers, 280 pound-feet. The CVT also kind of tries to mimic those shifts, which I don't love. And it's relatively responsive when I put my foot down, but just listen to that straining noise. It's just unpleasant, especially when you drive the other 4 cylinders, which have either stepped automatics or a dual clutch in the Audi Q5, for example. This car also offers paddles, which tries to mimic the fake shifts, which do an okay job, but it just, most people will probably never use them because it's a CVT. Just drive it the way it's supposed to be driven, like a CVT. Now, the rest of the driving dynamics are fine. The QX50 rides well enough. They soften the ride a lot. This is definitely not the sporty crossover that the old EX35 was, which basically felt like a G35 hatchback. This car feels very much like a family crossover that's based off of the Nissan Rogue. You can feel its front drive tendencies. The steering is quick and responsive. This doesn't have the horrible direct adaptive steer technology, which does make it drive a little bit nicer than the last Q50 that I drove, which had that horrible technology, which Infiniti still is working on. The seats are pretty comfortable, although the seats themselves don't have any adjustable thigh support, which I wish it did, especially at this price point, and visibility is good. The Pro Pilot Assist, which is now standard on the Lux trim and up, which you used to have to pay extra for, it still does its thing where it will constantly hit the brakes for you automatically, even if you're not actually on the brakes, which can be a little annoying if you're trying to actually drive this crossover. It just constantly is interfering as as you approach a car at if you start tailgating somebody, it'll start to brake for you automatically. It'll also start to push back on the accelerator like it's doing right now. Like, I'm not hitting the brake as I approach this Kia Sportage, it automatically starts slowing down for me, which is nice, but you can turn it off because it can interfere a little bit with your driving, especially if you guys are trying to drive a little bit more enthusiastically and whatnot. So overall, the driving dynamics haven't really changed. This is still a relatively fun to drive crossover, or comfortable driving crossover, but its CVT transmission and just buzzy nature with the constant beepings, it just kind of sours the driving experience. And especially when you combine it with the engine, which has enough power, but they just really need to work on the sound of this vehicle. The sound is just really, really a deal breaker for me. And it's a shame because the rest of the car's driving dynamics are fine. This, I believe, actually is one of the more comfortable riding crossovers, especially with all the sport-oriented models. This one is going to give you that soft ride that a lot of people are looking for in this segment. Now, in terms of fuel economy, on my week's worth of testing, I was averaging around 23 mpg, which is not bad. On the highway, it got closer to 27 mpg. So again, not bad fuel economy, but I was expecting it to do closer to 30, over 30, considering the fact that it's a CVT. Premium gas is recommended for the best performance, which you could probably just get away with putting regular in this car. Now, as most of you guys know, the competition in the compact luxury space is fierce. There's so many obviously good choices out there, and the Infiniti QX50 remains a pretty solid choice. However, I would argue that there are a lot of bad points about this SUV. Really, my biggest complaints have to do with that dated interior, with that infotainment system that just needs to be replaced, even though they added Android Auto and Apple CarPlay last year. The rest of the interior tech is also pretty behind. The interior itself is very well constructed, although there are some elements that remind you that it's a Nissan product. Really, my biggest complaint with the current QX50 is the powertrain. That VC turbo just doesn't deliver on the promise of offering a very smooth linear power band and the fuel economy and performance that it's supposed to give you with the variable compression engine. Its CVT is whiny, it's drony, it's accentuating the noisy engine, which isn't befitting in a vehicle that costs $60,000 like this particular one here. It's more expensive than the Lexus NX, more expensive than the Acura RDX. However, Infiniti does offer some pretty attractive lease deals, and you can also get these, I'm told, at a pretty steep discount. Now, the base starting price of this model is around $38,000 for a pure version. Of course, the Autograph model includes all of the upgrades, including that 16-speaker stereo, the pano roof, the 360 camera, the adaptive headlights, the upgraded leather, and it begins at 55 grand. The white leather in my tester is another 2 grand. Factor in the color and the destination, and you're over $60,000. Now, unfortunately, Infiniti really needs to replace the engine with something that's much more refined, more befitting of a luxury brand. And I'm really sad because Infiniti used to be a brand that was considered to be kind of like a Japanese BMW, and they've really fallen far from that. Now, they are promising completely redesigned models in the next coming years. They just unveiled the QX55, which is the coupe version of this, which unfortunately has the same powertrain and same interior, but it does look better. So Infiniti has no problem building vehicles that are attractive, that stands out, but until they can develop powertrains or electrification that really puts it on par with its competitors and an interior infotainment system that also puts it on par, I'm gonna have to say, take a look at the other brands before you decide on purchasing this. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2021 Infiniti QX50. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.